Good morning. If you're a regular Spotlight viewer, you've probably seen some of our past interviews about the 2020 census and why it's so important Michigan turn in an accurate count. But what you haven't seen us do is drill down on three populations that historically have been very hard to count: Hispanic Americans, Arab Americans, and African Americans. Why? And what's being done in the midst of this COVID-19 pandemic to help Southeast Michigan get a more complete count of its neighborhoods. Our guest, Cindy Gamboa of the Detroit Hispanic Development Corporation, Rima Maraway of the Arab Community Center for Economic and Social Services, better known as Access, and Reverend Dr. Dee Dee Coleman, pastor of Detroit's Russell Street Missionary Baptist Church. It's Sunday, May the 31st. I'm Chuck Stokes, and this is Spotlight. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me today on Spotlight. You both are doing well?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, we're well. Thank you.
Good.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. The 2020 census is so very important. We have always heard, and if we look back at statistics, 10 years ago, we know that trying to get an accurate count in neighborhoods of color have been problematic for a number of reasons. But in the backdrop of COVID-19, how difficult has it been for the two of you to be able to tell people and let them know and for them to respond to the 2020 census? Rima, I'll begin with you.
It's been really difficult to reach people in the ways that we were going to before. We have had to change our strategies to reach people through internet, through services where, for example, our COVID testing sites, we have signs up for people reminding them to fill out the census. We have food distribution sites where we're including flyers for people to fill out the census. So we've had to get really creative on how we do that. But unfortunately, Wayne County still has a very low response rate compared to a lot of the rest of the state, as well as other places, other states. So we've had to really reinvent how we do this and go and rely heavily on online outreach, which, as you know, with the digital divide, is not something that is easily done. We need the hard to reach communities are communities who are not connected online. So we have had to really think about
right, and you had the initial problems going in, and then COVID comes along and makes that even more complicated. Cindy Gamboa, same question to you, and as it relates to the Hispanic American community.
Yes, absolutely. It's really in line with what Rima just said. We've really had to think about changing our entire strategy. We know that for our community, we've always relied on like one-on-one contact with trusted community representatives. So that's why DHDC took that lead to make sure that we were going to be doing canvassing and doing a lot of just like one-on-one interactions, phone calls and things like that. And with not being able to contact people individually, doing the door-to-door canvassing, we've also resorted to online platforms and phone calls, text messages and things of that sort. But we're still kind of struggling to make sure that everyone is counted.
What is the major reason that you get and you hear from people when you approach them about the census and they say that for whatever reason they don't want to participate?
I think one of the things is that people just don't understand what exactly is it that the government does with the census data. And our job has been to really make people feel more comfortable with the safety of that information and why the government needs that data. And so making people understand that a lot of programs are based on, a lot of federal funding for programs that they use are based on the census data, whether that be Medicaid or SNAP or any of those. However, beyond that, congressional representation and also having people understand that COVID response by FEMA, for example, is very much tied to the census. FEMA uses census data to understand where people live and to determine what response should look like in terms of funding for recovery efforts. So the census it's really, for us, it's been about having people really see what the census data is used for and understanding that the information is safe, both of which have been concerns for the community.
Cindy Gamboa, same question, and how much has immigration played a role in all of this?
Yeah, so in a time where we were already facing like really huge attacks on the immigrant community, immigrant communities were, being harassed by ICE and Border Patrol on a daily basis in cities like Detroit, that is a border city. It was really hard for people to trust people on like just in general. So when you're telling people that this is a survey that the federal government is issuing,
Hmm.
people have a lot of trust issues on like, wait, what are they going to do with this information? Is this going to impact me in any way? Is ICE going to show up at the door, or is this going to like have like ramifications in the future? So
Does it help though when you and Remy are going about and you're asking people to do this and you're representing very well respected organizations and trusted organizations within the Arab American and the Hispanic American communities? The Detroit Hispanic Development Corporation is well known, and certainly Access is well known. Does that help in terms of the trust factor?
it absolutely helps. It helps put people's anxiety at ease because they know that these organizations have been on the front line fighting for them in the past. And we've done our due diligence to make sure that this is a safe avenue, right? We make sure that there's full transparency in the information that we're providing people. So when we tell them that this is actually protected for 72 years, this information is confidential, they get that information, they receive it in a different way when it's a trusted individual that's coming to them. So like in Southwest Detroit, there's a collaboration with different organizations that are doing the same thing. Congress of Communities, Southwest Detroit Business Association, and others, urban neighborhood initiatives. We're all doing the same thing to make sure that we're reaching out into the community so that they know that, one, we're all saying the same thing, that this is a safe thing and it's actually going to be beneficial for our community.
Okay, I need to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Stay with us. And welcome back to Spotlight. All right, I put the question to both of you. I had to go to a break. Rima Maraway, same question.
Yes, absolutely. I think one of the most essential things is for people to hear from trusted sources, and organizations on the ground are trusted sources who have provided services to the communities in the past. And so having these communities be on board is essential to people feeling comfortable that they should be responding for the census. But I think beyond that, people really, really have to understand what the census is used for. And we are bringing that information, as well as many other organizations. Like Cindy said, we work together to bring this information to communities, so that to ensure that we increase that community count.
We know that not everyone has access to the internet. Are your individual organizations and others throughout the neighborhoods and the communities opening themselves up so that people can come to them and be able to fill out the census?
So we actually take advantage of all of the different food distributions that we offer, diaper distributions, anything that we are doing right now with safe social distancing. We are making sure that we are first advocating and making sure that people are informed of what the census is and how they can get help if they still don't know how to do it. So people, even though we're saying it over and over again, you can do this online on your own smartphone, on your computer, anything that has internet access. They can do it on the phone in English, Spanish, Arabic, pretty much in 14 total languages, or even just fill out the paper and mail it. People still have concerns about how do I do this. So just having that one-on-one interaction during these food distribution times, or any time that we have available. We don't have a set schedule, but anytime that we do have time distribution, then we tell people that they're welcome to come and we can help them out.
Ms. Maraway, are there places in the Arab American community that people can go to if they don't have computers in their own home?
So as soon as one of the most important things I want to reiterate that Cindy said is we are encouraging people to use the phone option.
Okay.
You can call, and there are different phone numbers. There's an English phone number, there is a Spanish phone number, there's an Arabic phone number. All of three you can call to actually fill out the census. We've been pushing that very much with the community in order to make sure that they understand it's an easy process. The second thing is, as soon as the state allows us to, we will be opening up our locations to access as 9 locations to have computers available for the community to come in and fill out the census safely, of course, with certain cleaning and social distancing measures. We will be doing that, but I want to encourage people to remember that you can do this by phone if you don't have access to the internet. And you can also call any of our locations, whether it's Access or DHTC, if you have problems filling it out. A lot of the organizations who are doing this work are making themselves available by phone if someone needs help filling it out.
I know that Mayor Duggan and the director of the Detroit Census, Vicki Kavari, have been working very hard to reach out to all of these various communities, trying to get those federal funds to match the population of this region.
So it's really hard for people to actually figure out what those dollars, because billions of dollars, it's an abstract thing to everyday individuals, right? Because they don't know how that's going to play out in your everyday lifestyle. So those campaigns, Vicki Kavari and the city of Detroit is doing an amazing thing with their census initiative, because we're actually part of it. So they have a whole network where they're making sure that they have trusted individuals in each pocket of the city that are trained really well on how to explain the impact that it has on individuals' lives on everyday basis. It's a traditional Mexican bingo game that is used in, you know, pretty much while you're growing up, everyone knows loteria. So you get a little card with different icons.
It's like bingo.
And then the caller is calling out the card, and they'll say, okay, the beca escolar, and what this is the Pell Grant. So this one is like the school. They get the image, they mark it down here, and then I'm giving them facts about it. So I'll say 13.9 billion in census helps public schools. What that means for your school is, and then, so it's a pretty cool way that we're like playing a game. We're promoting the census and telling them, like educating folks on what all of the things the census impacts. So, you know, EBT, WIC, you know, Head Start, it's pretty interactive.
Absolutely. We've had, when we throw out big numbers, people understand, okay, that's a lot of money for the state, but they don't understand necessarily what it means for their families. And so talking about the fact that school funding is essential for the census, that even technology that school gets is based on the census, right? So understanding that the food that you're, you know, any assistance that you get, but beyond assistance, anything like public schools is based on the census. So having people see that impact that it would have on their lives is more important than throwing out, you know, this big random number. But then I think the one thing that we're ignoring is right now that people are, especially with the Arab American community during a testing, is one of the things we've realized people are very concerned with congressional appointments and fair districting. And so people are also concerned with, when we use that, that's something that people relate to very much, that they want to be able to have fair districting. They want to be able to have someone who truly represents them. And that is based on the census.
You can't overemphasize that it only takes 10 minutes. I did it with my wife. It was absolutely 10 minutes, maybe 15 at most, because I was involved and my wife was doing it. It would have just been 10 minutes, but it really doesn't take long at all. So we want to make sure that people understand this is not an all-day process. Rima Maraway, Cindy Gamboa, thank you so much, and best to both of you in terms of trying to get people to participate and come up with an accurate count for Southeast Michigan. We appreciate you joining us today on Spotlight.
Thank you
so much.
It's our pleasure. A few days ago, I talked to one of the most respected leaders of Detroit's African American community about the 2020 census. Reverend Dr. Dee Dee Coleman will be up next. She is the pastor of the Russell Street Missionary Baptist Church and the immediate past president of the Detroit Area Council of Baptist Pastors. We'll be right back. Reverend, good having you with us.
Thank you so much.
I know that you're involved in so many different community things, but I think the thing that you're most concerned with and involved in right now is this 2020 census.
Yes.
10 years ago, when they took the census, Detroit had the worst return rate of any major city in America.
Yeah.
I know that Mayor Duggan and so many other leaders have said we cannot let that happen again. What is it you're doing and what are the churches doing to make sure that we don't have a repeat performance of that?
Well, we are looking at the census in a whole different way. We are looking at the census through a school initiative. We are looking at it through highways and medical relief. Those are the key instruments of the 2020 census. And to know that it's easy. It's an easy process, and all they have to do is send the census back once they receive it home.
Well, you know, they have an old saying in the African American community, if you want to get a message out, make sure you tell the pastor. And
Oh, yeah.
when they say it on Sunday morning, everybody
Oh,
gets
yeah.
it and it trickles from there. But we're operating in COVID-19. This is something no one expected. You are having to have virtual Sunday morning sessions. How is it you're going to get the word out in the midst of all of this?
Well, the word, comes through our Sunday services. We put the word on because we're on Facebook or Zoom, and we have to look at the experience as one where everybody is inside. Everybody is tuned in at that particular time because they don't have anything to do. So they tune in the radio to us, and they listen in a different way. They're listening to get help. And at this particular time, the churches provide that kind of help. So the census information that they receive comes quite easily. All you have to do is fill it out. It takes a few minutes to put it in the mail, to send it back. So that's the way they get it. And it's not really difficult. It's a process that is extremely, extremely well done. It's a short process. It takes from 8 to 10 minutes to fill out your form. It takes less time than that to give it to the postman who can mail it back for you, or you can walk or take a few minutes to walk outside and fill it out yourself.
Well,
but we put it over Zoom.
Well, you're absolutely correct about the easiness involved with it. My wife and I did it, and it said it was going to take about 10 minutes, and I think it took 10 or 15 minutes. If my wife had totally done it, it would have taken 5. But the fact that I was involved probably slowed the process down. But a lot of Detroiters don't have access to the internet. So, and I know that there's an 800 number that you can call, but how are we getting the word out, and how are we helping people who may not be internet friendly or savvy to make sure that they're getting to places in COVID-19 where they can fill it out? Because I know a lot of people don't want people coming up to their door and answering questions.
Exactly. We do have a phone number that you can call, or you can simply come over to the church. The church have members there on computers who will help you download your information. You just call the church's number, and you will be transferred to the help desk, and the help desk will service you in getting your census information out. Mostly churches now are doing the census. Even though the census stretched out towards the state, but the churches are doing the census in such a way until they have mastered how to put the censuses on the internet to send them back to the person who are sending them out, and they look it over and then they send it. So it's an easy process, and we are more than willing to help the churches send the information out.
All right, Reverend Coleman, hang on for 1 second. Need to take a quick little break. We'll hurry right back with more questions right after this. When I talked to Carrie Eberso-Singh, the state director, she admitted that one of the problems, especially in some of our communities, some of our more ethnic communities, is the lack of trust, that people feel, well, if I answer the census, then next thing you know, they're going to be getting into my business. She emphasized the fact that the census is completely confidential. Is that something that you're encountering when you're talking to people, making sure that they realize you can trust doing this? It's not going to come back and haunt you, and the fact that you and other respected leaders are telling them this, they trust you?
Absolutely, absolutely. A part of the trust factor is in the census itself. There are certain information that a person has that is not to be shared with the local community. And to let them know that their census is a personal touch. It's a personal thing, and your census goes to the Census Bureau, and this information stays confidential. There's no reason or no purpose for sharing the information that others should get it, and no one gets the information that you provide to them on the census that is not kept with the Census Bureau. So it's strictly confidential. And anybody asks anybody any information on the census, on your census information, I'm afraid they're not truthful, and they're just not valid. And it's best to check them out.
So bottom line, there should be no excuses for not filling out the census in one form or another, correct?
None. That is correct. The census are being confidential. Your information is confidential. Your time. They don't even know the times we called you to be of value to you. So the census information is a part of recapturing what you lost. It's recapturing what you lost. So it's important.
Absolutely. Reverend Dr. Coleman, thank you so much for helping to get that word out. And we hope that people were listening and that they follow your direction there and make sure that Detroit has a much better return rate this time than 10 years ago. Thank you so much.
We're looking forward to it. Thank you.
Stay safe. Well, that's it for today. Thanks to all of my guests. I'm Chuck Stokes. We'll be back next week with more newsmakers in the spotlight. We hope you have a great week, and please stay safe.